show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning. Today is Tuesday, and I'm so excited to be here with y'all because I can tell you when I'm doing the podcast, I love it because I get that chance to be with you. And I want to thank each and every one of you personally for getting the books, because either when you get Expert to Influencer or The Entrepreneur's Garden or any of the other books that we have written and published, partial profits from those books go to kiva.org. And that is for entrepreneurs all across the globe. And here's what I'll share with you. Really, really exciting. So one book was released in 2017. One book was released in 2019. And yet recently found out both of them were like #1 bestsellers. And it's just amazing when things stand the test of time and do so well. And also I'm going to highly encourage you and challenge you to give that 1 hour of your time every month as a kindness to somebody else, with no strings attached and no expectations. So now let's bring in our guest, Beverly Williams. Welcome, Beverly.
Why, thank you for inviting me. I so appreciate the invitation.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you with us. So you definitely have a very impressive background. And so Beverly, tell us, do you recall any moment or any person from your childhood that left a mark on you?
Oh, absolutely. I remember vividly. My parents, obviously, they were the first to influence me as a woman. My mother, well, not as a child, but the woman I became, my mother influenced me. My father, a tenacious, single-minded individual, encouraged me to be whatever I wanted to be and to work hard. But my 7th grade teacher, I think it was 7th or 8th grade English teacher, Mrs. Jessie Wilkerson, she had an indelible mark. She left an indelible mark on me and had an unbelievable influence. She was a very stern woman, but she made sure that the students in her classes learned about language, the roots of language, the beginnings of language, and how you could use that going forward to determine what a word that you didn't know, you were unfamiliar with and hadn't seen before, how you could figure out what it meant or what it might mean. And it was just a life-altering experience for me, whether the origins were Greek or Roman, Latin. It was just wow. And from then on, I always liked to read, but I was just a voracious reader, and I like to learn about new things. So yes, I'm like putty. I'm easily influenced by the right people.
Well, that's a good way to sharing that how you were such a avid reader and that your mom was an influence. And so many times we as parents or we as moms or we as like aunts, uncles, we forget that we can influence children. So it's important that if you have any child in your environment or circle, that you be that influence to them. So it's beautiful what you're sharing. And I'll tell you, I love reading because I've got so many books in my house. I think so I've got more books in my house than anything else.
No,
So,
I have no biological children, but I have about 15 godchildren or children who have adopted me. And my godchildren, especially my twin godsons, they will remind me of what I did when they were little boys. You took us to Barnes and Noble and you took us to buy books and you took us here and you took us there and you took us there to get ice cream. You don't know the effect that you have on the people you come in contact at all ages. And I think that was something that I was surprised by. I did what I did because I wanted to and I loved them. But for them to remember it after all these years is just, I mean, it made me fill up, quite frankly.
yes. And it's amazing that when you leave a mark on someone, it is so beautiful. Like, and I'll tell you, I do the kindness challenge. I've been asking my audience to do that for a long time, and they will send me these stories, and it just fills me up. It's tiny little acts, and it doesn't have to be huge or anything like that. And one of the stories I always love to tell is that I go for a walk, and there is this woman. She rides her bike, and everyone she meets, she smiles and says good morning so enthusiastically and energetically that I look for her every morning that I go. So never underestimate the power of influence. So tell me, as you grew up, after being a reader, did you have any other interests?
Well, when I think it was about the 6th grade, I thought I was going to be a track star. I ran the 40-yard dash and came in first. And I was like, wow, I can do this. Well, the next year, I came in almost last. So that wasn't for me. I thought I'd be an actress because I did, around the same time, I did a performance. I was, the lead in a junior high school performance, and I really loved it. So, but that didn't stick either. I always wanted to become an attorney. And after going to graduate school and getting a master's in public administration and working for a large urban city and the city's Board of Education, I went to law school at night. And I loved it. I worked a full-time job during the day and I went to law school at night. And the people I met there, I'm in contact with. We get together every, few months, once a year, depending on what our schedules allow. And I've been very fortunate. I've worked like a dog. I've worked hard. My father wasn't wrong when he said, you can get whatever you want if you work hard. It's true. If you work hard and you don't make imprudent, let's call it imprudent decisions, you're likely to be successful. You're likely to enjoy the employment path that you've decided to embark on.
Yeah, no, that is amazing and very inspiring that you loved what you loved and you did it at night. So when you are going through the schooling to become an attorney, what would you say were your couple of lessons that still stick with you?
The lesson that sticks with me most is what I mentioned that my father taught me. You can do anything and be anything you want to be if you work hard enough, if you put in the effort. And education was very important to him because he only had an 8th grade education. So he wanted his children to be better educated than he was. And for the most part, we were, or we are. But I was more, I guess, more ambitious, more curious, more, I'm more focused. And that's one of the things that you have to be. If you go to law school, you have to be focused.
Yeah.
It's rewarding in that what you learn, you can use elsewhere. You don't have to become an attorney. If after you complete law school, you graduate, you decide that's not what you want to do, it will open the door for other opportunities, usually. But I didn't go to law school to become an attorney. I went to law school to become a labor arbitrator.
Interesting.
But I got an opportunity to clerk for the Chief Justice of my state Supreme Court. And although I didn't know anything about what that meant, I was told you can't turn that down. If they offer you the job, you have to take it. And I just bought a house.
Was this right out of school?
Right. It didn't pay much money. And I just bought a house. I don't know how I did it. I really don't know how I did it. The clerkship only lasted for a year, but fortunately I bought a 2-family house, so I had tenants. And I don't always listen to people when they give me advice, but a friend of my mother's advised me not to buy a 1-family house first, to buy an income producing property. And I think if I hadn't done that, I would have been in trouble if I had taken that clerkship. But it was a rewarding experience. The other two people I clerked with, we've remained friends over these decades, and I'm a better person for it.
Well, fantastic. So after you finished your clerkship, did you go to corporate or did you start your own practice?
Oh, no. I was fortunate. Before I was offered the clerkship, I had been offered an opportunity with a national labor and employment law firm, Epstein, Becker and Green. They're headquartered in New York and Washington, D.C. And that's where I wanted to go to work. I didn't want the clerkship because the firm paid more money. And they said, no, we want you to go and take the clerkship. We want our attorneys to be, developed and to have that experience and exposure. So they held the job open until I finished my clerkship and I went to work there. And I worked for them for almost 10 years. And then I went to work for a Fortune 500 company. And that I enjoyed too. I have been very fortunate that I've enjoyed each job that I've had. And I'd like to tell you that it was because, I did all the right things. I didn't do all the right things, but I did work hard, and I had a reputation for being a person of integrity, an honest person, a person of dignity. I'm an acquired taste. I'm not for everyone. One of the things I do now, and I've done for a while, is to investigate claims of workplace issues like discrimination, abuse of some kind, whether there's compliance with federal and state laws. And I'm the one you want to look into it. If you're really serious about finding the answers, I am like a dog with a bone. I do not I do not stop until I'm satisfied that I know what's going on and that the right people are being penalized, going to be penalized in some fashion, because everyone who's accused is not, it's not justified in being penalized.
Right. And that's good, right? Because that's what justice system is all about. It's about the fairness and justice being done.
Exactly.
So as we are talking about, I know that you had a job, you know, you had a reputation, and you also talk about a lot of people, let's say, you know, especially like with a lot of layoffs happening, people are experiencing mental stress and a lot of pressure. So now they're going and looking for new jobs and doing interviews. And I know you talk about that. So what tips do you have for people to ace their job interviews?
Let me say this. After I wrote my book, one of the men that I clerked with took his life.
Oh,
He was a peer reviewer on my book. And
so sorry to hear that.
thank you. He was a very special person. He helped me whenever I asked for it. When I heard that he had taken his life, I regretted not focusing more on preparing mentally, emotionally, and physically for a job search. That's not why he took his life. But I know how demoralizing it can be to continue to submit resumes and either not hear anything or get negative results, no's. And I started the book, fortunately, by trying to get people to manage expectations and prepare themselves for what might be an arduous undertaking, depending on the economic situation that they're looking in. They need to prepare themselves, have a routine, exercise, listen to music, meditate, whatever it is that will bring you peace before you start your day. Do that. Because when you start to look for a job, you should be single-minded, as I said before, and be focused. You should plan. First of all, prepare. And you prepare yourself by getting yourself together as far as exercising, eating in the morning, having a healthy breakfast, and preparing yourself to embark upon the day. Then you move forward and you plan. You have a plan. You take the day, the first day, you got to come up with the plan. What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? You're going to network. You're going to you're going to draft your resume if you haven't done it already. You're going to have somebody look at your resume, somebody who knows about resumes, look at your resume. You're going to network. And more than social media is necessary. You need to face-to-face, COVID permitting, face-to-face, so that you can impress someone with your facial expression, with your demeanor, with how you present yourself. You don't have to be a fashion plate, but what you wear should be neat, clean, and pressed. Your hair should be combed. You should present a professional image. And that may take some time for you to develop if that's not what you usually do. But let me say this, when you look for a job, to thine own self be true. Don't show up in a three-piece suit if you get the job and you're going to try to come in cutoffs and flip-flops. Don't do it. In fact, there's a story in my book, and it's a true story. A woman in the Midwest was working for an investment firm in the Midwest. Now, investment firms at that time were very conservative, buttoned up, buttoned down. She came to the interview in a blue suit, pumps, shirt, and she got the job. And she did very well. They were very satisfied with her. But she decided that she had to be her, and she decided that she was going to start wearing sandals and brightly colored clothes, and her hair was, natural, loose, curled, whatever. And she didn't understand why she wasn't promoted after that. And she said she finally realized that had what she had portrayed in the interview and what she had started out as an employee was not what she continued to be as she moved along. And they didn't want that. They didn't want that image for their clients to see. It was too loosey-goosey.
Yeah, and then that's really very good information. So what's the number one reason that gets a candidate hired?
Well, qualifications, job description. If you meet the qualifications, that's one step. If you are interviewed, if you get to the interview process and you present yourself well, as I said, neat, clean, presentable, all buttoned up, doesn't have to be a three-piece suit. Don't come in cutoffs and flip-flops. I mean, that's an exaggeration, but you understand what I'm trying to convey. You need to look like someone they wouldn't mind a client interacting with. That's the key. The other thing is, when you're being interviewed, if you're fortunate enough to get an interview, try to create a win-win, a win for the employer and a win for you. When we look for jobs, we typically are single-focused on ourselves. We want a job, we need a job, that's what we're focused on. We don't focus on the employer. If you can convince your employer, whoever's the interviewing or the hiring partner or the hiring person is, that you can make their job easier, that you're going to work to make them look good, and that you're the one that can do that, and you will do it consistently at a high level, unless there's someone equally qualified that they've networked with and that has been recommended by someone that they know and trust, you should be the one to get the job. But if you don't get the job and someone else has recommended someone, that person that you interviewed with will remember you. And down the line, they may reach back and contact you for another opportunity. I've seen that happen more than several times.
Yeah, no, that's definitely some valuable nuggets over there. So, okay, let's say, they get an interview call, they get hired, now they're at a new job, building those relationships, and sometime into the job, what are a few things that will help them get promoted?
I like to say, I try to create easily remembered tips. How to soar in the workplace. SOAR. S, share and seek information. You have information, you may have information that other people can use and share it freely. You should also seek information so that you enhance and acquire information that will enhance your skill set. You should also, let's go to O without going to another S, Operate in the workplace and elsewhere, as I said before, with dignity and integrity. A, be accountable. Be accountable. If you make a mistake, own up to it. Don't try to imply that it's someone else's fault. Do better the next time, but fess up, because that will go toward you being a person of integrity. And respect the rights of others. Everyone has something to contribute. There are at least 4 or 5, possibly 6 different demographics working alongside each other in our workplaces. Everyone has something to contribute. Don't try to marginalize younger or older employees because you think they don't know what you know. They may not, but they may know something that you need to know. And you need to establish relationships so that there's mutual trust, there's mutual admiration. Let me suggest this. The Intern. It's a movie that Robert De Niro and Anne Hathaway starred in. Millennials and baby boomers working side by side, not starting out on the right foot, not having any respect for each other, and at the end of the film, the best of friends. It should be a training film for American workplaces. Those are my tips.
Actually, I do remember seeing that movie, and it was really well made and something to learn from it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like, you watch a good movie and then you forget about it. And these are very, very good tips. So, okay, so now and when you talk about integrity and thinking about others, it automatically builds rapport with other people. Now, that said, there can be at times when you're doing everything right, and then there are bullies everywhere around or problem people. And if you're facing some sort of a work conflict, what's the best way around it?
Well, it depends on the person, you as the person. It depends on the person who's bullying. It depends on the work environment. Every employer doesn't handle such things well. All HR people are not created equally. Some are good, some are not as good as the good ones are. So you have to assess, if you have challenges, you have to assess your work environment. You know better than anyone else what the culture is, whether they enforce their no harassment, no bullying policy, assuming they have one. Do they have one? If they don't have one, that's a red flag. They should have one. I would strongly suggest before you talk to your HR person, excuse me, that you seek the advice of someone knowledgeable outside of the business, because you don't want to decide incorrectly so that it compromises your career moving forward. If you're comfortable, and you don't have to do this, if you're comfortable approaching the bully saying, can we have lunch? I'd like to have lunch with you. You could do that. If it's really a combative situation, you don't want to put yourself in harm's way. So you don't do that. You listen to what your mentor, and that's another thing. Having a mentor is invaluable, but you have to make sure, you may need more than one, and you have to make sure that they're knowledgeable about the areas that you have an issue with. If you feel comfortable and the HR person at your employers has a good reputation, then talk to the HR person. But unless the bully hasn't bullied anyone else, the fact that the bully is still working there may be a problem. That may be a red flag too. So there's no one size fits all answer to that question. It's like you have to feel it out.
Absolutely. And I definitely see where you're coming from. And here's the thing that, like, regardless of whether you're applying for jobs or whether you are interviewing, every situation is unique because you're unique and the jobs you're applying are unique and the companies. So what I'm hearing, the common thread is that, first of all, invest in yourself and your mindset and you as a whole person, because it's important to have that energy. Also, invest in the time for research. And as you mentioned, network is having good, solid relationships outside of your work as well. Because when you have that, you can connect with someone and find out. And also, simple resources, just like as we are talking about here, listening to different podcasts, and you never know, what information and what advice you can get that may be applicable to your experience. So those are very valuable tips.
Well, and mentioning podcast, I have a podcast. It's Your Employment Matters with Beverly Williams. It's accessible wherever podcasts are found. The intent is to provide information, useful information to people who might not otherwise have access to it. There's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist that I interviewed, a rock star. My dentist said his son was a rock star. And I didn't, I said, oh, sure, yeah. And, he's in my mouth with working on my teeth. And the next time I went back and we talked some more, he said, yeah, he's a rock star. And he is. My godchild, when I told her, she screamed. And the New York Times has covered him, the Modern Baseball. So there's a wealth of information there. A cybersecurity expert I interviewed. It's just a wealth of information. Some people went to college, some people didn't. There are people with there's at least one with a different gender identity. I try to be inclusive.
So
I interview people across the country.
That's fantastic. So what you're sharing is that people can find a lot of information and nuggets at your podcast. So definitely, I'm sure folks will check it out. And so tell us, Beverly, you always talk about that there is the landscape of employment is changing. So tell us, how is it changing and what are the implications for the future?
The implications for the future are uncertain. That's the best way to put it. There was a time when employers had a paternalistic approach and attitude and feeling about their employees, and employees felt that. They felt that familial love and connection. That is no longer the case in most instances. And that having changed, and technology having stepped up, we're working remotely now in many instances, and that's subject to change because employers are paying for office space. They have leases. If they're not willing to let their office space go empty because people want to work from home, that's just not feasible. So It's just a matter of knowing that it's a business. Your employer is in business. Your business is your career. You have to maximize your business and your ability to earn a living. And you do that by staying abreast of industry developments, the industry that you work in, the industry you want to work in, the industry that you are pursuing, whether it's through additional education or enhancing your skill set otherwise. You need to stay on top of what's going on. You need to take steps to improve your circumstances and not wait to be promoted, not wait to be tapped on the shoulder and say, you're ready for promotion, or I'm promoting you. You need to ask, what do I have to do to be promoted? When you get your performance review, if it's not what you think it should be, or it's not consistent with how you think you've been performing, don't be combative. Ask. I'm surprised at my rating. This is what I thought. What could I have done differently? What should I have done to receive a higher rating? If I receive a higher rating the next time, if I step up my game, can I expect to be promoted next year? If you're not hearing the things that you want to hear when you ask the questions, because it's your career, it's your employment journey. I like to say, use LeBron James's strategy for your career. Perform at a high level for a long time, give it enough time. If you don't get where you want to get to, if your goals are not reached, then you may have to leave. You may have to leave. Mm-hmm. And you know what? When you leave and you leave at a high, and you're performing at a high level and you go somewhere else, it's not unusual for them to want you to come back to where you were before, and they pay you more money.
Yeah, no, definitely. What you're recommending is very, very helpful. And here's the thing, that just don't wait to have that conversation with your boss till you're getting your performance review. Have monthly check-ins. And as you mentioned, Beverly, take charge of your career and say that, okay, I would like to get this rating, or like to have this increase in compensation, or I would like to get promotion, or get some, whatever it is that you're looking for, or you may be wanting some certification course, whatever you want, sitting down and laying down a plan with your boss that, okay, what are the milestones? Am I achieving? And getting that consistent feedback in real time.
Exactly.
All right, like every couple of months or every month, am I on track? If I'm not, what else could I be doing? Or if I'm doing well, are we still on track to be getting what we agreed upon? So this way you can kind of stay abreast. So this is some very important and helpful nuggets to people. So Beverly, if people wanted to reach out to you, tell us how they can connect with you. Tell us about your book.
Well, my website is www.youremploymentmatters.com. Although I'm having some problems with Google now, I can't even access it. And my email account, they can email me at bawilliams@youremploymentmatters.com. Hopefully Google will restore my access. The book is pretty much a directional step-by-step, although it may not seem that way. As I said, the first chapter is about managing expectations and preparing yourself for perhaps disappointment, for what you may be confronted with going forward. It's also, there's a chapter called Inconvenient Truths that I think people need to be aware. Just a few things that people need to be aware of. It's like, and it sounds crazy, but you know what you know, but you don't know what you don't know and why you don't know it. Now that sounds like doublespeak, but you have a certain amount of information based on your experience. You don't know what the information your boss has. You don't know what information your boss doesn't have. Need to know, like in the service, the military, so shared on a need to know basis. You operate based on what you know, but you should always keep in mind that there's other information out there. You should, the other thing is unionism. Think about whether joining a union is something that you might want to do. You might want to, but before you do anything, before you sign your name to anything, research. Don't embark upon anything without being well informed. That's critical.
Yeah, no, powerful. Thank you, Beverly, for sharing your knowledge and wisdom with us. I'm sure it's going to be very helpful to our audience. And sounds like the book is there for your taking, folks. You can get some valuable nuggets, get to know more of Beverly.
The name of my book? Did we tell them the name of my book?
Please do share.
Oh, it's Your GPS to Employment Success: How to Find and Succeed in the Right Job. It's available on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, and wherever independent bookstores are located.
There you go. So you have Beverly's book, Your GPS to Employment to Success. Check it out, especially if you're going through any of the situations that we have talked about today. So any other last thoughts that you'd like to share, Beverly?
I want everyone to know that their goals are within their reach. Their career goals are within your reach if you have the proper training, if you have the proper attitude, if you do the necessary work, and you persevere. Sometimes it may not happen right away, but if you persist and persevere, you should achieve success. And it should be success as you define it, not anyone else.
Beautiful. So thank you, Beverly. And thank you, dear audience, for joining us, because without you, the show would not be possible. And
thank you, Divya. I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to speak to your listeners. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And thank you, Juan, for making the show technically possible. So folks, be well and take care until next time.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.